Welcome, everybody. I'm Bob Balfrance with the Everyone Graduate Center, and I want to welcome you to the Pathways to Adult Success Solution Forum. Today, we're continuing our series on community collaborations to prepare young people for adult success, and we're very excited to be hearing from a number of folks who have been working on collaborations of many types in their communities. You go to the next slide, Greg. Um, we'll be hearing, all right. Yeah, there you go. Great. We'll be hearing from Shared Lane and New Visions Charter High School in New York City on their Student Voice project. We'll be hearing from Urban Strategies and their NICHE initiatives in Fort Myers, and from our friends from the Philadelphia Education Fund on their college access and success ecosystems. We're going to ask people as we go along, if you have questions or comments or resources to share, please put those in the chat. After each of the presentations, we'll have a few minutes for Q&A on that one, and then we'll have some time at the end to have some discussion and resource sharing. Next slide. As always, we said that we asked you to share your ideas and your comments and your thoughts in the chat, and then we can read out those questions when we have breaks for the Q&A. We will, as always, send out everybody the resources that were shared, a recording of the PowerPoint, and all of sort of affiliated resources that were aligned with it. Okay, next slide. We're very excited to be hearing about these community collaborations because we know this building pathways to adult success is always been crucial, but it's even heightened in our post-pandemic times. There's both new opportunities with schools and systems sort of reorganizing to address new realities, and students having new visions of how they want to achieve their careers and their adult success, and then still dealing with some ongoing impacts of the pandemic. Building pathways to adult success has never been more crucial. So we're excited to hear about from our folks today on ways this is being done locally. Next slide, please. As we mentioned, our today's presenters are the Student Voice Project from New York City, Urban Strategies work at Fort Myers, and the Philadelphia Education Fund's work on their college access and success system. And we're going to begin today with hearing about the Student Voice Project from our friends from New York City, from Shared Lane and New Visions Charter High School. I'll turn it over to that team.
All right, Bob, thank you so much for that introduction. So let me pull our slides up now.
You'll notice some name changes. My organization formerly was New Visions, and now we are now United Charter High School. So if you'll see the name and the branding shift in our presentation, as of July, we are New York. Still doing and committed to the same work.
Right, and I myself am also at a new organization at Jobs First NYC. So I want to just start off by saying that last year, when Bob and Ann and Charlene shared with us the information about the community challenge, I knew that the first thing we wanted to do was elevate student voice as a way to learn from the young people who are most impacted by opportunities in the college and career space, to really hear what they were looking for with regard to community connections and college and career support. And so I reached out to my colleague, Principal Dave Neagley, now of United Charter High School. So what we're gonna be sharing with you today are the findings from research an action research project. But before doing so, I want to just give Principal Neagley an opportunity to introduce himself.
Yeah, I'm Dave Neagley. I'm really excited to continue our collaboration as we're trying to understand how to prepare our kids for the workforce. I've been the principal. This is my 7th year as principal at Humanities 2. And my colleague, Jeremy, will talk a little bit about his affiliation.
Right. Well, I am calling in today from Jobs First NYC. We're a workforce intermediary located, as the name suggests, here in New York City. Our mission is to create and advance solutions that break down barriers and transform the systems supporting young adults in their communities in the pursuit of economic opportunities. And we do that in a few different ways. We have place-based or community-based support opportunities where we go into particular neighborhoods and harness the assets and opportunities and supports from a variety of stakeholders. We have work that focuses in the education space, connecting to the K through 12. We have workforce strategies, and then we also do work in policy. Now, for today's presentation, however, I want to share about one project where we worked with Principal Nagley's school last year to identify how high schools in New York City and beyond can better support their students to understand and prepare for careers and strengthen linkages between high schools and the workforce training ecosystem. If you've been doing this work for a number of years, like I have, you're probably aware of over the past 20 years, we've done much better as a system in creating connective tissue between high schools and colleges. And that's been a tremendous opportunity and boon to the 60 to 80% of young people who are making that transition directly from high school to college. But what about those young people who are going to workforce training programs? That same connective tissue does not exist in most cases for a variety of reasons. How might we strengthen it? Was one of the questions we sought to answer during the course of this project.
And I think connected to that, a larger part of our work at Humanities 2 is being a school that recognizes that all kids need to have a transition to career, but that pathway looks different. For some of our kids, it's going to mean transition to college directly. For some, that's going to be right into the workforce and then advanced training. For others, it'll be advanced training and then working in the workforce. So we wanted to be recognizing that by kind of doing an audit of how we're currently preparing kids to shift to career, how our kids at our school are making sense of those efforts, and then how could we continue to improve effectiveness to make sure that our students are moving forward in preparing for a career. To understand this a little bit, it's important to get some context of our school. Humanities 2 is a school that's located in the South Bronx, Mott Haven area, if you're familiar with New York City. We're about 300 students and we serve only 9 through 12. Our charter network is unique in that we're the largest charter network that is high school only in New York City with really high results. In that we only focus on 9 through 12. So they come in ninth grade and we try and graduate them at a very high level. Our community is incredibly diverse. We have a little bit over 90% of our kids are free and reduced lunch. And my students' population is largely Latino, but we have a distinct African American and African population that's mostly West African. Our school's focus is around reading, writing, and thinking critically, developing skills that we think are important for careers that we know that kids are going to go into careers that we don't even know yet. Part of that is them attaching to seeing local and global issues and themselves as being part of the as change agents in their communities. We believe strongly about developing an arts skill set and supporting them to meet their post-secondary transition. Our current support structure is that all of our students come into our school and have an assigned advisor that follows them for 4 years. They have consistent and regular one-on-one check-ins, and we have career and college exposures that start as early as freshman year and go through. So some of those activities include things like career day. We have a mock interview day where kids can practice college going or career interview skills. We also have opportunities for them to visit different kinds of universities so that they get a flavor. The goal, right, is that all of our kids visit a New York SUNY, a private, a public, a trade school, and an Ivy League and an HBCU before they go into senior year. And all of those activities are ones that help both on the college and career discussion side.
Okay. As I mentioned at the talk of the top of this talk, we wanted to hear from the young people themselves to really find out what it was that they were looking for. So in order to do that, we conducted 3 focus groups, both with 10th graders, 11th graders, and 12th graders. After conducting these interviews and analyzing the data, we found 6 broad themes that you can see on the screen right in front of you: career interests, skills over experiences, heartfelt relationships, emergent career-connected learning, senior-heavy programming, and looking for more. Because of our time today, we only have 10 minutes to present, followed by 3 to 4 minutes of Q&A. We're going to be just focusing on 3 of these findings. The first of which were heartfelt relationships. When we conducted the focus groups, and believe me when I tell you, one of the palpable things that I heard from these young people was the belief that the adults in the building truly cared about them and wanted the best for them. And when we think about this work, it really bears reinforcing that strong adult relationships are the linchpin of career readiness and future planning. And so we might think that, providing information to sectoral knowledge, or providing, career interest inventories, or going on trips, that all these are important things. But one of the key learnings of this research experience was starting with those socio-emotional skills and how important that was for the young people themselves. The next theme that emerged in the focus groups was senior-heavy programming. And so if the first theme that I shared, it was really a laudatory theme of appreciation from the young people who truly appreciated the efforts of their school, this second one was a little bit more critical. The young people said, we love, the 12th graders were saying, this is great opportunities. We have had so many opportunities. And yet, if we had this to do over again, it would have been nice if it had started a little bit earlier. And so one quote that I can share from one of the students that I'll just read aloud is, I think it should be an opportunity for all grade levels. What if, you want us to start from the very beginning and say, what college you want to go to, or what do you want to do? Because when I asked freshmen what they want to be when they grow up, they have no idea. It will be an opportunity then for them to get to know what they want to do. And so when we really think about this body of work and having a cohesive string of opportunities for young people over the course of their 6 through 12 or 9 through 12 trajectory, this was one of the themes that was really elevated by the young people themselves. And finally, what we heard from young people was that they were looking for more. And so, which is a funny thing, if you think about it, if you're, having 2 young people, my own children are in high school, and really generally what they're looking for with regard to high school is less. They would just love to go to school less. If it was less, instead of 5 days, send me to high school for 3 or 4 days a week. But these young people, with regard to college and peer exploration, they were really hungering for more opportunities and more knowledge. And so, as I shared, we had these 6 themes that I'm not going to reiterate at this point due to time, but you can see there were a whole variety of them, from career interest all the way down to looking for more. Now, let me say that upon completing the research, I went in and presented to Principal Neagley and his team. And what Dave right now will share is what he did with the information provided to him.
So I think working with Jeremy and having the perspective of the focus groups was really helpful in our strategic planning process in our effort to hit that mission that all students have a really solid post-secondary plan. 3 of the areas that he recommended was around increasing career exposure, creating systematic opportunities for out-of-school learning, and then being more mindful about a career projection, a career preparation projection over series of years in the high school experience. So this year, the things that we focused on is really taking a different approach to our post-secondary goal. The real shift was we've spent time unpacking as a staff what it means to prepare all kids for a career, and then thinking about training as well as education as an outgrowth of that conversation. So you want to go into culinary arts. What kind of training do you need to do in order to get there? And then how could college potentially or post-secondary training be a lever in that work? I think the second piece is being a little bit more intentional about having more frequent conversations about college and career. And the way our team approached it is that we're asking all teachers to bring in one career guest speaker into their classroom throughout the year. So we've had guests right now. We've had several guests that have come in to present to students. We've had a psychotherapist. We've had an engineer. We've had a programmer, and not all of those are coming in face to face. Some of those are coming in via Zoom because electronics can make the work more seamless, and our kids have an opportunity to engage in careers, some of which that they thought of being a part of, and others that they didn't. And then I think last, we've spent a lot of time thinking about how to continue to refine our career day focus as well as our post-secondary planning to have college trips that are very meaningful and aligned to those goals of giving kids exposure, as well as helping them see themselves as being potential participants or students in various areas across different types of universities to really bolster prior to senior year, those senior year conversations. So we want to thank you and for having this opportunity to share about our school and our students. And we open to questions, thoughts, recommendations, or any areas of connection.
Thank you. That was wonderful. And I encourage folks to either share your questions or thoughts in the chat, or if you want to, you can come off mute and just ask it. As folks are thinking about that, I'll start off. One for Jeremy and one for David. So Jeremy, I know it wasn't one of your three, but I was interested in the skills over experience and students saying like, we've been given skills, but not so many experiences. And that just struck me as a interesting finding, because we know in a lot of ways it is experiences which shape young adolescents, right? As opposed to like you're taught a skill, and if you don't get to apply it, you may or may not maintain it, right? So I don't know if you want to say anything more about that, but I thought that was an informative finding, that
Yeah,
because schools
absolutely.
are good at skills, not so good at experiences, right? It's like
Yeah, and really, it's built into like the very design of a high school, right? Is
right.
that like, you know, the individuals that you hire, they come in, and the students were able to speak to examples of career connected learning. So for instance, one of the projects that happened at Humanities 2 is, and Dave would be able to elaborate on this, but is this physics-based bridge building assignment, and some of the students talked about doing this work and how they really felt like the skills that they were learning in the school day would have real world implications. But when I said, oh, you know, tell me about opportunities that you had where you've done like a workforce challenge, or you visited this company, or you visited that. They struggle to come up with answers to doing that. And so it really spoke. And of course, this is the case, like you said, Bob, of all schools. It's not particular to Humanities 2, but how can we reimagine the design of the high school experience to say that experiences or something that all students have the opportunity to gain in addition to the skills.
Yeah. And that's why I'm going to pivot to David, because as you know, you're talking about how you're starting to try to think about this, but the real challenge for the school is how do you give experiences at the universal level, right? Not that every kid gets the same experience, but how does every kid get some experiences, right? And that's a
I
volume
think that
question.
it's partially a volume, but I also think it's about rituals and routines. So I think, like, for example, every freshman that comes in during summer bridge, which is when we bring them in before the school year starts, writes a letter to their senior selves. That's something that's a shared
Yeah.
experience. Another
Yep.
example is we've spent a lot of time across departments thinking about symbolic moments that all kids are going to have. So, for example, one of those such experiences is all of our kids go up to Howell's Cavern, which is upstate, and engage in a trip to understand how caves, stalagmites, and stalactites influence New York geography, like making that bridge and connection between our classroom and
Right.
content that's frankly difficult for New York City youth sometimes
Right.
to relate
Right.
to bridge that experience into our world. I
Right.
think that's the other like last comment I'll say that's more career focused is I think the challenge is we've done a lot of trips over the years. The change that we're doing now is we're doing them strategically. We literally have a checklist and a tracker to ensure that every kid gets to visit an HBCU, an Ivy, an upstate New York trip, and a CUNY trip.
Right.
Because I think that's like one thing that some kids were seeing all of them, few kids
Right.
were getting exposure. So I think some of that is it's about what we track, some of it's about what we plan, and then the
Right.
last part is how we execute and value what it is that we really want kids to have that experience.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. That's very thoughtful. I'm going to ask you, if people have questions, please put them in the chat. We'll go back to them at the end of this when we have an open Q&A. But to honor our time, I'm going to now bring on our second set of presenters. Greg, if you bring the slide, or they have their slides. So it is the team now from NICHE, I guess. I don't know if that's how you say it right.
Yes, niche.
Niche. Okay. I wasn't sure if it was like
Yes,
if
that's all
you were
right. I'm
supposed to
gonna
say
go
the
ahead
name or
and
the
share.
letters. Yeah, thank you. It's all yours.
Yes, I'm just sharing right now. Okay, everyone can see this okay?
We can.
Okay. Oop. All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Victoria. I am the education specialist with Urban Strategies Incorporated in the Fort Myers site. And today I will be presenting our niche initiative that we were having that was focusing all about connecting our youth to careers. As you also may have noticed when we were logging into Zoom, there were quite a few other Victorias that are not real Victorias. They are actually my my colleagues, my team members, and so all of our team is here. But the brain of our team is Miss Sabrina Gadsden, and she's our senior project manager, and she will be going over more about who USI is and what we do here.
Thank you, Victoria. My name is Sabrina Gadsden. I am the Senior Project Manager here for Fort Myers. I appreciate this opportunity for us to be able to present today. As you can see on our slide, USI is across the nation. We also have some sites in Puerto Rico as well as the Virgin Islands. We support more than 30,000 families nationally, and we also have 20 Choice Neighborhood Implementation Grants, which equals to about almost $500 million in awarded funds. If you would, next slide.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And as you can see here, our pillars of our work is health and wellness, housing stability, economic mobility, education, and policy influence. And we also have a new branch, which is our USI CDFI, which is our financial institution that we are really pushing within our communities across the nation. And Niche is just one of our many initiatives that we have started within USI. And then I will turn it back over to Ms. Victoria.
All right, thank you, Sabrina. So our niche initiative is all about connecting our youth to career opportunities. And so we focused on our youth living in affordable housing sites, and I'll go over more of the specifics moving forward. But niche is where we do career connected learning opportunities for our youth. And so there are a lot of different components to the niche initiative. And this last summer, we focused on 4 of those program components. We started off with a career interest inventory. We also provided individualized goals and one-on-one meetings to provide some wraparound services. We also provided some trauma-informed coaching support when working with our youth in regards to our different career connection programs. And then we also exposed our youth to careers in the housing industry. So a little bit more about our Fort Myers site. We work with children and families who are a part of the Southward Village community who have been relocated to other affordable housing sites. The specific students that we were working with over the summer, we had 10 of them who were middle school and high school aged, and 80% of the youth that we were able to recruit were engaged throughout the entire program. They did receive a stipend for participating, Earn and Learn, which many of them very much were appreciative and used that stipend to save and also prepare them for the current grade that they're in right now. We had students from 12 years old all the way to 15 years old, split down the middle between, some male, some female, but all of our students are part of affordable housing through the Housing Authority of the City of Fort Myers. These are some of the resources that we provided with our niche students. So just like any class program, we always start with a syllabus. So we provided dates and locations and classes, volunteering opportunities, and workshops in our syllabus. So the students knew exactly what was expected of them throughout their participation in the program. We had an orientation followed by our first module, which focused on finding their niche, finding what their career interests were. We also provided one-on-one coaching with their career interest survey. We also had 3 different workshops that focused again on careers in housing. So we learned more about the housing choice voucher. We learned about careers in law, real estate, and grants, as well as careers in resident services. We also gave our students the opportunity to shadow different jobs in housing to see more about what those careers would look like for them in the future. And of course, we had a little graduation for them. So again, this is just more of the resources with a few pictures as well that goes along with our syllabus. So with our niche orientation, we did do a Nearpod game review where we quizzed them on their knowledge of the niche initiative. So that was a really fun opportunity to engage our students. We also have some pictures of our presentation and our students collaborating with each other through the workshops. We also have pictures of our one-on-one sessions as well as our volunteering opportunities. Some were at the mobile market and some were with our career in law and real estate, as well as resident services. And then, of course, at the end, all of our students did participate, and we celebrated them with our graduation ceremony at our community resident meeting, where they received, their certificate of completion as well as their stipend. We also rewarded them by taking them out to lunch at Famous Dave's. They all have their niche shirts on. They received some Urban Strategies apparel, backpacks, resources for them, as well as their stipend. After the graduation, I did send out a post-niche student survey where all of our students indicated that they would definitely participate again, which that is in the near future. We are looking to do this program hopefully much bigger and on a larger scale. And so our students are very excited and looking forward to that. They 100% would recommend the program to their friends, and they would just love to do it again. And it was a really great, unique opportunity to work with, youth in the younger ages. We typically see youth again focusing on their careers when they're in, as Jeremy and David mentioned earlier, in the high school, even 10th grade. And so we took a gander and worked with some of our middle school youth, and it was a great opportunity to connect with them as well, focusing on their career interests moving forward. And so here is a picture of our lovely students at lunch with their $300 stipend. So they were very excited to earn and learn. And so I wanted to conclude with a quote: "Your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth." So most of our students, they've overcome a lot in their short life so far, and so their value is just as important no matter their age. And that is the conclusion of my niche presentation, and we can open it up for questioning.
Thank you so much, Victoria. It was wonderful. And again, people can put their questions in the chat or come off and ask directly, and I'll kick it off. First, just an observation. This is a wonderful form of collaboration, right, where a community institution is stepping up to provide sort of experiential learning experiences for students, right? Often it's the school is out trying to find people, and here, like, the
Right, yeah.
institution is stepping up, saying, "We'll create an opportunity for our students to have these learning experiences." And one thing that struck me in connecting to our first presentation again is that this was very definitely aimed to try to be an experiential experience, right? You had some curriculum, you had some learning,
Yes.
but at the crux of it, it was giving them the experience, and also in the middle grades age, right? So that's they're just trying to they're just finding their way, right, and thinking what's
Right.
possible. So my question is given that, and you're sort of, you can make one case that what you're really trying to do is open their minds to possibilities, right? That they may or may not have considered, being a young adolescent. And I know it's your first time, so you're just you may not have enough data to answer this, but I'm just curious if of all the various components, do you have a sense that it's like the one-on-one counseling, or it's like the job shadowing, or it's like, do you have a sense of what's the thing that gets them to say, aha, oh, this is how this really is, and it's different than I thought?
I think every piece of our program has a part to the puzzle as a whole. Now, our students, they do get to take a career interest survey in the school district that we have here, but that's it. That's where it ends. And so that's where we were able to take that and meet with them on a more individualized approach to discuss their interests and then work with them on, okay, these are skills that you may need for your future career, and look out for those when you're participating in our workshops and our shadowing opportunities. And I think having that hands-on learning experience really speaks volumes. And that's just that hands-on experience is where our students were like, okay, yes, I never thought that this would interest me, and it does. And it just got, the gears in their brain to think more
Right.
about their
Right.
future.
Yeah, that's very cool. And also they were able to, pay them. So it was like the sense of like, what part of like
Yeah.
what work is. Just last question, and while people are thinking of their own is was there something about that, again, because sort of your first time doing it, that like,
Mhm.
went better than expected? Like you thought, oh, that maybe this is going to be hard, and like, no, that works.
I guess my own mindset is, oh, stereotypically middle school, that is like a bit of a harder population, but our students were incredibly respectful during the workshops. They were incredibly receptive when participating in the shadowing opportunities. I was just so like amazed with how grown and responsible and respectful our 12-year-old and 13-year-old
Yeah,
students. And most people would think, middle school. But no, our middle schoolers were very respectful towards not only us, but, throughout the entire process. So that was a beautiful thing to see.
that's wonderful. Thanks. Anne, do you want to just quickly read Jeremy's question?
Sure. Yeah, Jeremy says, thanks, Victoria. What does career coaching look like for you? How open versus scripted in terms of content and frequency?
Yeah, so the career coaching took place immediately after the career interest survey. So it was fresh on their mind. And it's really just, there was no set script or set questions that we asked them. It was just having an open dialogue, an open conversation, meeting our students with where they were at. Because some of our students, had uh, knowledge of what would take place as far as, post-secondary education, and some of our students didn't really know what to do. They might be the first one in their family to go into post-secondary education, or even have an experience like this. So we just had a very genuine, open conversation with them, met them where they were at with our career coaching, and we continue to follow up with them just on that informal basis, just building that relationship.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
One of your
Um,
colleagues has raised a hand. I don't know which
okay.
Victoria Urban it is, but do go ahead and speak.
Hi, this is Tyronda Mentor, and I serve as Vice President for Educational Initiatives at Urban Strategies. And like our team members, really thank you for this opportunity to share. I just wanted to share a couple of things. Number one is the niche initiative was designed by youth for youth. And so the different components that you saw on the screen were selected because the initiative was designed by the youth. And by that, I mean the organization received a small grant to engage young people over a year-long period of time to create the niche initiative. They, in fact, named the initiative. And so their voices in development of this piece was important. And one of the things we heard is that they wanted to get paid for their time, just like everybody else get paid for their time. And so we made sure that we honored that by offering them a stipend. The other thing I wanted to add is that when you talk about community partnerships, this was a real community partnership with the Housing Authority. And so Urban Strategies is a nonprofit that has many sites across the country, as Sabrina said, but our work is very localized and it's very place-based. And in each one of those cities where we work, we have very close relationships with housing authorities and with cities and with other partners. But what came out of it too was our housing authority partners having some just some eye-opening aha moments about what it means to support middle school students, right?
Yeah.
So being able to address some of the mental models, right, that people hold about middle school students, particularly those from low-income public housing communities, we were able to lift some of those things up and give our housing authority partners a new experience. So the youth did not only have gains and takeaways from this opportunity, but so did our partners. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that Victoria's the colleagues on the ground, all of those people, the other Victorias who you see on the screen, are our family support specialists and managers. I think Mydasia is on here. Say hi, Mydasia, if you're here, raise your hand. Emmanuel. Our model is embedded in family support, which is, for lack of a better word, a case management model, right? So every family that lives in the communities that we serve has a manager like a Mydasia or like a Emmanuel who supports their overall goals and help to document those goals and provide them with service linkages. And in those families are children, right? So the children, the students are embedded in those families. And I think it's important when we think about what that coaching model looked like, that you understand that they were surrounded with lots of wraparound support through our family support managers who were able to address other barriers that might have been getting in the way of the student success. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Those are very, very informative additions, and the power of it being for youth, developed by youth, and the middle grade students really came up with a lot of these elements. Makes it very powerful. Thank you. I'm going to now call our friends from the Philadelphia Education Fund to bring us home. Ellen, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you so much. I am really, really honored to share after everything that's been shared today. And I'm thinking about the through line of just like the student voice and community voice and kind of holistic approach to education. So just want to thank folks that are here today and also fellow presenters. Let me share my screen. And please let me know that you can see it okay.
It's good.
Thank
Yep.
you. Okay. I will worry every time. And even though this is life. Okay. So just briefly, I wanted to share, I'm Ellen Ridyard. I'm the Director of Partnerships at the Philadelphia Education Fund. And really grateful for our ability to engage with Pathways to Adult Success. We are a college and career nonprofit in Philadelphia. We work with students from middle school through college graduation and are really focused on supporting all students in Philadelphia in securing access to economic mobility. So a lot of the similar themes to what we're hearing today around programming. We do the work through some direct service programs, some educator and curricular development, as well as through ecosystems and collective impact. So the work I'm going to be talking about today is our college access and success ecosystem that I serve in the backbone role for. So kind of working with the adults and building toward stronger outcomes for Philadelphia students. So we have recently launched a a collective in Philadelphia that's called the College Access and Success Ecosystem, or CASE for short. And I'll put a little link about the ecosystem and some resources in the chat in a little bit. But it's really focused on strengthening high school and post-secondary graduation rates for all Philadelphia students. So it's an attempt to answer the question, with all of the nonprofits, with all the school leaders, with all the community members that are really invested in stronger outcomes for our city and for our students, could we do this better together? What if we put our heads together? What if we collaborated and just were strategic in our efforts? Could we have stronger outcomes? So that's kind of the big question that informs the work we do in the ecosystem. And the ecosystem is fairly new. It launched in December of 2023. This is a photo of the day that we launched, and Dr. Balfans was actually there in Philadelphia with us, presenting with the Philadelphia Education Fund and with the School District of Philadelphia around school attendance, which is a huge, challenge to student success and a thing that educators in Philadelphia definitely have their eye on. It's a systems change and challenge. As a school district, how are students doing in terms of engaging with school on a regular basis? How are our teachers doing with that? How can we as a community encourage strong school attendance that is connected to graduation outcomes? And I remember Dr. Balfans on that day was talking about, school attendance and some innovative things that Philadelphia was doing to support students and families in attending school and strengthening that, and kind of how it's connected to the school district strategic plan, but also just thinking about, the context of the Pathways to Adult Success framework around belonging. And I remember that you said, there are days when, in order to attend school, if the weather's bad, like it's been in Philadelphia all week long, it's really cold, but he said, you're going to get wet because you're waiting for the bus, or you're waiting for the train, or you're walking to and from. And so what is going to motivate you as a student to endure those conditions and kind of be wet and miserable and uncomfortable and cold all day? And it is that kind of sense of belonging, and how can we create that in our schools and in our communities? And that really resonated with me. It's something that I think about a lot as we're doing collective impact. How can people feel that they belong, that they can contribute, that their voice is important, all the things that you were sharing earlier around capturing community input, student voice, ensuring that our work is informed by that is really key. And that was actually the day that we launched the ecosystem. It was in December of 2023. And Dr. Balfans talked a lot to the CASE membership as we had our first working meeting about how we were going to set up the ecosystem. So it's very much, fresh and new and in that stage of design at that time. And since then, we have formed more of a structure around the ecosystem. So this is just a graphic of the steering committee members who guide the work of the ecosystem. It's made up of the school district, as well as nonprofits, government, industry, philanthropy, and community members and educators. And right now there are about 80 people who have volunteered their time to become members or supporters of the ecosystem, which is really exciting. We're working on some strategy to figure out, we know what our goal is, but how are we going to get there? What's our logic model? What will our theory of change be? How will we know that we're successful? And to give the ecosystem work a little more focus and to ensure that we're action oriented, the work of CASE this year has really been focused on FAFSA. So we have a financial aid collective effort. we are putting our heads together around how can we ensure that Philadelphia as a school district has stronger FAFSA completion rates, knowing that last year there was a major systems level challenge with FAFSA and with completing financial aid through the introduction of new technology and new systems, a better FAFSA, and a new state grant in Pennsylvania. It was just really tough. And so we want to ensure that that improves for students and families and for educators who are supporting them this year. So this is just a little visual of how the ecosystem works. We have the steering committee members. PEF serves as the backbone organization. That's my job, is to just facilitate and coordinate the ecosystem membership and work. And then there are 3 different action teams, one that's focused on high school graduation, one that's focused on college graduation, and finally one that's focused on data and evaluation, as well as supporters, folks that may not be, involved in some of the ongoing efforts of each team, but definitely want to support and encourage and kind of connect as they're able to. Each of the 3 action teams meets on Zoom virtually each month. And then we also bring people together 3 times a year to do work and to do professional development and to connect with each other and share data. There are over 80 members in the ecosystem, and I've been really encouraged by how people really want to come together. I don't know if you see this in your work, but people love to have that like FaceTime with each other and just share information organically, as well as connect with one another. We always have food, and we try to meet in a central location that's public transportation so that folks are able to get there. And then I just wanted to show you a little illustration of some of the work that we've been doing. I think this is a really beautiful graphic recording of our last meeting that we had as an ecosystem in December that was focused on FAFSA. And basically during the meeting, we had some presentations from the U.S. Department of Ed, from the school district, and from the Mayor's Office of Education, while we were thinking about our citywide FAFSA financial aid collective effort. And then during that meeting, we had someone from an organization called Illustrating Progress, and they did a graphic recording of the meeting. So basically they put into a visual, themes and ideas and conversation from the meeting. And I was just amazed as someone who does not, I was amazed that they were able to do that and kind of summarize in that way. But it provided a really cool tool just to kind of capture some of the pieces of the conversation. And I think it was helpful for us to kind of have this visual that we can use as an ecosystem to say, this is some of the work that we're doing. Let's remember when we talked about what we're going to do, what supports we need, why it's important, just to kind of have this tool to reflect on and just to capture and summarize some of the effort. And really understanding just the impact of FAFSA, why is it important? It's connected to students having options, affordability, and also increased in college enrollment. So being able to kind of message that in an aligned way to students and educators and families, I think it will be hopefully a helpful tool. So that's just a little bit about the work that we've been doing in the college access and success ecosystem. It's an ongoing, collective impact forum. And so I'm not totally sure. We've talked a lot about where we'll go next. I don't think we'll be all FAFSA 100% of the time. I don't think that's the only barrier to students. I mean, we know this. It's not the only barrier to students graduating high school and graduating college on time. But it is certainly an urgent kind of systems level challenge that we think that we can potentially make some impact around. So one of the action teams is working with some local colleges to do some FAFSA completion efforts this spring. And, you know, we're kind of just exploring that as an ecosystem for now. But we'll keep you posted with kind of where it goes from here. But it's been really, really fun, really collaborative, really exciting, and hopefully will lead to some good impact and stronger outcomes for students.
Great. Thank you so much, Ellen. Folks are fascinated by your visual. Can you say again the organization that did it?
Oh, sure. It's called Illustrating Progress. Can I stop sharing my screen?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Okay. And then if it's okay, I can put their link in the chat.
That'd be great. People appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I can't see the chat when I'm
that's okay.
presenting. Okay.
No worries. You take your time. And then the last thing I'm just going to say is that to tie this together, that, it's we saw a school level partnership. We saw a community organization, creating, partnership with students and by students. And now, this is a partnership at a semi-grand scale, right? I think you said it was like 80 strong. And, what that illustration was very powerful of, like, when you can bring 80 people together on an issue, you can get a lot of stuff can happen, right? That's sort of what your graphic illustrated, that, like, that was a big national crisis last year with FAFSA. And, you were able to sort of mobilize a community-wide effort to good effect, right? And that really shows the power of that collaboration. And once you've done the work to have it set up, as you said, it can both have, like, ongoing goals, but it can also meet the challenge of the moment, right? That comes along. So that's a power of that, of collaboration on that scale. I want to thank all our presenters again. I'm going to ask Greg to bring up our closing slides, but I thought it was a very rich dialogue about the power of collaboration at multiple levels, all with this theme of, really engaging students and putting them at the center of, like, both what's needed and figuring out the solutions. So I just wanted to, in closing, just share that the third part of our community collaboration series will be Thursday, March 6th. We'll have our 3 more examples of the power of collaborations. I also want to invite people to the Grad Partnership. It's sort of a companion project, Community of Practice, which is doing some efforts around data and sort of on-track systems. And then I believe we have one final slide, Greg. Yes, that the Partnership for Student Success, which some of you may know, we have the National Partnership for Student Success, which was a public-private coalition with the Department of Ed and AmeriCorps and lots of members, including many people that are also part of Pathways to Adult Success. We just want to let people know it is continuing even outside that public-private partnership aspect. And if we go to the last slide, if you're looking for a place to collaborate and find with other nonprofits and universities and school systems around how we get sort of the evidence-based, people-powered support students need to thrive, it's a good place to do it. You should check it out at partnershipstudentsuccess.org. Just wanted to share that with everybody. And with that, I want to say thank you to everyone again for the work you're doing, and encourage you to continue the dialogue and continue the collaboration. And just want to say to everybody, onward and be well. And we'll see you at the next Solutions Forum. Thank you.